Hello, today is Friday, March 5th, 2021. I'm Joe Schmidt from TC2, and this is Staying Connected. If you have offices in a lot of places, you probably also do business with telecom providers in a lot of places. Managing those suppliers and that billing can be a monumental task. That's why using companies that aggregate that billing can be a good idea if you pick the right supplier and know your requirements. My fellow TC2 director, Theresa Knutson, has done quite a lot of work in the local aggregation space with her clients. So I'm really pleased to welcome Theresa to today's podcast to share her insights. Hello, Theresa, and welcome to the podcast. So how about if you give a quick overview of what local aggregation is and the potential benefits?
Well, hey, Joe, it's great to be back on Staying Connected. And I was counting, and I think this is either our 24th or 25th podcast together.
Well, Theresa, Saturday Night Live has Alec Baldwin, and Staying Connected has you.
Do I get a jacket to go with this too? I want to make sure, next time you see me, you can give me that jacket. But I'm glad to be here today. And today our focus is going to be on local aggregation. So we're going to talk about things. I'm going to use the acronym called ILEC. So that stands for Incumbent Local Exchange Carrier. So this is local spend. Think of things like your POTS lines, just plain old telephone services. As you mentioned, it's a bear to manage because you likely have a lot of suppliers and likely your company is doing the tail is long. You're likely doing business with AT&T and Verizon and CenturyLink and Frontier and Windstream and a whole litany of mom and pop ILECs. And so the list is very long.
You're right. And there are a lot of them. And ILEC invoices, well, they often lack detail to truly understand the key elements of the services themselves. Like, what is the service? Is it a POTS line or maybe some feature? And where is that service provider? Where is that service provided? And you can forget trying to understand the services if you get some sort of summary bill.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. I mean, local invoices are just, it's a mystery when you take a look at them. But to really understand what your ILEC spend is, you need an inventory at what they call the USOC level. That's the individual detailed service level. But to get that, you need to request it from an account team. So likely you don't have account teams anymore for this type of spend, and you might be directed to an 800 number to find out this information. So it's really difficult to get to. So that means you are most likely paying for local services that you no longer need, especially if you have VoIP deployed, and you're likely paying for services at locations that were closed many, many years ago.
And adding to this complexity is that you have to know how to contract for these services. If you're working directly with your many ILECs, there are several types of contracts, and these contracts have to be managed. And sadly, often we see companies paying full list rates for some or all of their local telecom because contracts have expired.
Yeah, that's absolutely spot on. So the topic we're on today, which is local aggregation, this means you actually move who you buy these ILEC services from to a third-party aggregator. Think of companies like Granite, Mettel, or Bullseye. So you are no longer contracted directly with the individual LECs. The aggregator, the local aggregator company, is your service provider. So why do people look to aggregate their local spend? And there's probably 6 really key things that gives you. It allows you to save money. It allows you to simplify your contracting. You understand your price structure. The POTS lines are all a single rate or the certain rate for region. You have a lot of flexibility to cease services without penalty. You have improved end user support. And this one's really critical. You take hundreds, oftentimes, of invoices and get one. And that invoice has meaningful data. It tells you where's the service located, what's the lowest level of detailed inventory there, and what are you paying for that. And so with improved billing, you also get improved reporting. And this is probably one of the most important factors. So local aggregators have incredible reporting. It's consistent reporting across all the services that they provide. So you actually know what you're buying and where it is and what it costs.
I think it's worth noting that the aggregators, they have portals available where you can pull a variety of detailed reports to help you manage that environment, for site changes, like things like, site closures. And when new technologies like voice over IP replace the need for POTS lines at sites, you can sort out your inventory management really well with this portal access.
Yeah, the reporting from the aggregator is truly a gold mine. And again, as I noted before, you get consistent information about the services, the pricing, the address, you know what you're paying for and where it's at. And so I don't want to gloss over that the savings can be significant. And the timeline to achieve those savings is typically no more than 2 months from the date of contract signature. But make sure you review the savings calculations that are presented by any local aggregator, as sometimes they miss key things like account level discounts in their savings calculations, which could cause them to overstate the value they're bringing to the table to you. So you really should control the baseline. You should understand what you're paying for, and don't rely on baseline information provided solely by the local aggregator.
So, Theresa, understanding existing contracts with the ILEC providers is critical too, isn't it? I mean, I know companies can have lots of these POTS agreements, PRI agreements, and if I recall, CenturyLink, which is now Lumen, they historically, they have some type of revenue commitment on their local services.
Yeah, you really need to map out your existing ILEC contractual commitments so you know when you can move POTS lines or the services without penalty. Or you can ask the aggregator to pay any early termination fees that you might be assessed as part of them winning that business from you. So just make sure that you understand those. You might not capture all of them, but just be aware that you might have some lingering commitments out there and you don't want to leave yourself exposed for any early termination fees. And also make sure as you are negotiating with your aggregator that you work in flexibility, that you can disconnect services without penalties or one-time charges. So that's a key note. And if the aggregator agrees to pay the ETFs that you're assessed, just know that you're going to have to track those on the bills from those ending supplier relationships and make sure you ask for reimbursement. They automatically won't know what your early termination fee is that you're assessed. It kind of they find out after the fact. And as you negotiate your deal, make sure you don't forget to include SLAs, not only for the implementation of the services, but also for provisioning. Because as we mentioned at the beginning, you're now buying the services from the local aggregator. So anytime you have to do any provisioning activity, you're moving, you're adding, you're changing, you're disconnecting, all that activity flows through the local aggregator. So you want to map out those processes so that your IT team knows how to get things done and what to do if something goes wrong and if there's a service interruption. So discuss also if the local aggregator can integrate into your ServiceNow application if that's what you use for end user support.
Hey, Theresa, I think this has really been a great discussion today. So I'll leave it to you. You have any closing thoughts?
It's just like anything in the space. The work doesn't end when the contract is signed. There's still some project management activities that you'll need to do to help the aggregator deliver the services to you so you can realize the savings. Things like getting formal LOAs executed for them. If you have local services from AT&T and Verizon, they have special LOA forms that they require. It requires administrative support from your side to make sure that the ILECs cease billing you once the aggregator takes over. 95% of the time that happens right, but sometimes it's missed. And know that you will have to manage the ILEC's final bills to you. You're going to have a period of time where the first month the aggregator takes over, you're going to get a final bill from the ILEC, and there's going to be some credits involved and some refunds that need to be managed. So just know that that closing out of those old relationships takes some time. And then don't forget that once the aggregator's up and running, that you're going to have to manage that relationship. It's a supplier to you. You want to make sure that you look at the very valuable reports, you look at the invoices, and make sure everything is tracking as you expect.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, Theresa. So as you just heard, local aggregation offers some real benefits. And if you'd like to talk about it with Theresa, me, or any of our LB3 and TC2 colleagues, just give us a call or drop us an email. You can also stay up to date by subscribing to Staying Connected. And we also encourage you to check out our websites and to follow us on LinkedIn.